dive right into this explainer and unearth the hidden history of Busan's Maechukji Village. You know, when we think of modern urban spaces, we usually just see what's right in front of us: the concrete, the glass, the bustling traffic. But actually, cities are like living, breathing organisms. They carry the DNA of their past right there in their streets and buildings. So today, we're going to peel back the layers of a very specific, almost magical neighborhood in South Korea. It's a place that literally encapsulates the entire turbulent modern history of the nation, and it does it all within a few incredibly narrow alleyways.
It's a stark contrast when you really take it in. Right in the center, you have this tight, dense cluster of blue-roofed houses that looks like it's been completely trapped in the 1970s. And surrounding it, towering, modern luxury high-rises and massive, gaping construction pits. It is literally an island in time. You can almost feel the intense pressure of the modern city closing in on this fragile pocket of the past. So you might be wondering, how does a neighborhood just get left behind like this?
Part 1. An island in time. To figure that out, we're going to treat this space like an archaeological dig, uncovering exactly how this working-class island came to be, layer by historical layer. Today, Maechukji is this quiet, stagnant pocket in the Beomil-dong area of Busan where time just flows differently. If you walk these streets, the alleys are so incredibly narrow that two people can barely pass each other without brushing shoulders. It's the kind of place where the frenetic energy of the surrounding metropolis just fades completely away. But, well, this peacefulness is actually deceptive. This village is currently on the brink of being completely erased by urban redevelopment. We are quite literally looking at a fading monument right before it vanishes forever.
Part 2. Born from colonial ambition.
To really grasp its roots, we've got to look past all the modern concrete. And here is perhaps the most shocking fact about this village. The ground it sits on didn't even exist a little over a century ago. Before it was land, this exact area was the sea. It served as the strategic Busanjin naval base for the Joseon Dynasty. Back then, it was famously described as the throat of the southern border and the key to the West Gate. Basically, the nation's absolute primary defensive shield against maritime invasions. But that landscape changed drastically with the arrival of Japanese colonial powers. Between 1913 and 1932, they literally reclaimed this very sea. They filled in the ocean to expand their military footprint straight over the former Korean naval base. And this wasn't just some run-of-the-mill civil engineering project. No, it was a deliberate, physical rewriting of the map to serve a rapidly expanding empire. So the land beneath this village isn't just reclaimed earth. It was forged through the violence of turning a defensive gateway into a massive staging ground for the Pacific War. This newly created land became a huge military logistics hub. We're talking sprawling military barracks, supply depots, and massive horse stables, all built to support the imperial war machine. Part 3. Refuge in times of war. Following liberation, the physical structures left behind on this reclaimed land were about to take on a completely new, desperate purpose. Soon after, when Korea was engulfed by the absolute devastation of the Korean War, thousands upon thousands of desperate refugees fled south to Busan. They flooded this specific area, cramming into whatever space they could find. And that organic, desperate scramble is exactly what created these incredibly narrow, shadowy, claustrophobic alleyways. The layout of the village was completely dictated by the need to shelter as many human beings as mathematically possible. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this unique, cramped architecture exists because these tightly packed homes were literally chopped up and carved out of the abandoned Japanese horse stables and barracks. Think about that for a second. Families would take a single horse stall, divide it up with whatever scrap materials they could find, and call it home. The physical dimensions of a horse's stall literally dictated the dimensions of human lives.
And this brilliantly illustrates how a space originally designed for imperial warfare was forcefully repurposed by war refugees. These were people who were just trying to survive the bitter cold and crushing poverty. It's honestly an incredible testament to the human spirit, taking the architectural remnants of occupation and war and turning them into a sanctuary, however bleak, for families who literally had nowhere else to go.
Part 4. Industrial boom and bust. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, and the neighborhood undergoes yet another massive transformation. The war was over, the country was rebuilding, and Busan was rapidly industrializing. Actually, the village thrived during this time as a super vibrant working-class hub, fueled by massive economic engines right on its doorstep. Factories like Chosun Spinning, Kukje Rubber, and Dongmung Timber
drew thousands of people from the countryside who were seeking jobs and a better life. The village just buzzed with the energy of laborers who were quite literally building South Korea's modern economic miracle with their bare hands.
However, that economic boom, it was terribly short-lived for Maechukji. The neighborhood's harsh decline began precisely in the year 1969, when its biggest neighbor, Chosun Spinning, permanently closed its doors. And man, this triggered a huge domino effect across the entire local economy. As the major factories shut down or relocated to cheaper areas, the neighborhood's fortunes sank rapidly alongside them. All that vibrant energy just drained away, leaving behind empty windows and fading signs. And the really tragic part is that the people left behind in these aging, modified horse stables were mostly the folks who simply couldn't afford to move out. The village shifted from being a stepping stone to a trap for the urban poor.
Part 5. Fading into history.
So we've moved from sea to colonial base to refugee camp to industrial slum, and now here we are in the present day. Today, Maechukji isn't just a dilapidated neighborhood. You know, in Korean culture, there's this concept called han. It's a deep, internalized feeling of sorrow, resentment, and unresolved hardship. This village is essentially a poignant physical monument holding the layered han of colonialism, war, absolute poverty, and finally, industrial abandonment. Every single crack in the concrete here tells a story of survival against the odds. But this sinking island in time is now facing its ultimate erasure. The modern city demands space, right? The very ground this village stands on, ground built by colonial forces over a century ago, is slated to be completely leveled. Pretty soon, the narrow alleys, the repurposed barracks, and the silent bells are going to become nothing more than just another modern apartment complex. As we watch this incredible living time capsule disappear into the shadows of excavators and cranes, we're really forced to reckon with the future of our urban spaces. As communities develop, sure, progress is inevitable, but so is amnesia. So I want to leave you with this final question to think about. What is truly lost when the physical spaces of our most difficult, painful, yet incredibly resilient histories are paved over for high-rises? Thank you so much for exploring the layers of Maechukji with me today.